So, hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining. So today, the purpose of this session is to provide you with a very practical approach on the Portuguese annual VAT return and how it should be filed. We will go to the main sections of the annual VAT return, how to submit the annual return in practice, what penalties are foreseen in case you do not fill the return on time or in case it is not submitted at all. So again, the idea is just to be very practical, as most of the companies are required to submit this annual return by next month already. So the very first step we need to do is to log in into the Portuguese Tax Authority's website, also called Portal das Finanças, with your company's credentials. And then you will type on the search bar IES, which is the name of the Portuguese annual VAT return. And then you will see an option stating Entregar declaração. And here it will pop up through these options here. So you will see an option stating Preencher declaração and also an option that states download the application for the purpose of completing it offline. So here the first step you need to do is to ensure that you have downloaded and tested the application that will allow you to complete the annual return and the option that better suits your company settings. So you need to select one of those that are more into according to your computer. And then, as you can see in the slides, you need to select the annexes that are required for non-established companies, which are here at scope. So you will need to select and to click on Novo Anexo here, and then you need to choose Annexes L, Annex O, and Annex P, which will guide you through this session. Before these annexes, in any case, you will need to complete the section Rosto, which basically includes the general information about each company. So here in this section Rosto, you will see several fields called Quadro. So in this case, you will have the first field, which is Quadro 1, which where you will need to include basically the period of this annual return. In principle, it should correspond to the calendar year, which in our case should be from the 1st of January until the 31st of December last year actually. But of course, there could be exceptions that we need to take into the account when preparing the annual, which are, for instance, the cases where a company has just obtained the VAT registration number during the calendar year, or if just was deregistered during this year. And you need to bear in mind that this option here needs to reflect exactly these dates. Then you need to go to field 2, which is Quadro 2, and here you will need to basically include what we call the Código de Serviço de Finanças. This code is a particular code that the Portuguese tax authorities granted your company. You may have this code already from other returns and annual returns that you submitted in the past, or even this code you should have have access to this code during the registration phase. But in case you do not have it, there is a quick way to get it from the Portuguese website as well. You just need to go again to My Area. You need to type Situação Fiscal Integrada. Then it will appear an option which is Dados Gerais de Identificação, which means general identification of the company. And then you will be able to scroll down, and here you will see Serviço de Finanças Competente. This 3085, in our case, as an example, is the code of the Serviço de Finanças that you need to include in this quadro 2. Then here, let me go again, you will have quadro 3. This here, it's basically for you to include the name and the VAT number of the client. So this information, you should have it right away. Next field is quadro 4, which should include the activity code of the company. This is not a mandatory field for the purpose of this annual return. Nevertheless, it could be that you would like to have this information included. And here, similar to what we did for the Código de Serviço de Finanças, you need to go to the Situação Fiscal Integrada again. Here you will see Atividade Exercida. And if you scroll down again, you will have what we called Códigos de Atividade, which is basically the code of the activity that your company is registered for into the Portuguese tax authorities. Then you will go to quadro 6, and here is where you need to select either option 5 or option 2, meaning that option 5 will be your if you are just declaring the first return for this entity, for a specific entity, and option 2 if it will be the last return being filed for this entity in particular. Then we go to field 7, where you need to select if this return is the very first annual return you are submitting for 2024, or if it's a declaração de substituição, which means a corrective VAT annual return. So in principle, it should be the first declaration of the year, so that's why we selected here, but it could be that for some reason you need to correct the information already provided, case in which you should select declaração de substituição. A note to say that fields 8, 9, and 10 are only mandatory for established entities, which are not in scope of this webinar. So here it leads us to the next field, which is field 11, which is regarding the ultimate beneficial owner. Here, the tax authorities are basically asking you to confirm if the information that you have already provided to the RCBE is accurate and it is up to date. If this is the case, you need to select Sim, which means that you are confirming that the information is accurate. In case you face a situation where you see that the information is not yet updated, we would recommend you to go and correct the information to be provided to the RCBE. And then, if you are still on time to submit the annual VAT return, you come here and you select that the information is already up to date. So next, it should be the annexes O and P, which are very similar each other. Annex O is regarding the domestic sales, and Annex P is regarding domestic purchases. The way we complete both annexes is very similar. Basically, you just need to give the information of the entities for which you have suppliers or customer with transactions with gross amount higher than 25K during the year at reference, which is 2024. So, for example, if you have domestic sales higher than 25K for a particular client, you just need to include in this tab the VAT number, which is called Número de Identificação Fiscal, NIF, of the client, and the total amount, the gross amount of the sales. We have here also some notes, of course, that when there is a nil activity, you don't need to complete these annexes. You also need to be aware that you need to disregard the cents here, so the amounts must be absolute. And also a practical note here that it is important, that it is often required and requested about the credit notes. So imagine that we have a credit note that has been issued in 2024, but for which original invoice refers to a transaction that was already reported in 2023, for instance. Even in this scenario, the credit note should be included in this annex. So it should follow the logic of a credit note that is issued within the period of reference. Again, so Annex P, as mentioned for the Annex O, it's basically similar. So you need also to include here the NIF, the VAT number of your supplier for which you have transactions above 25K. And here you will have the gross amount of those transactions. And now I will pass the word to Rafaela, who will guide you through the Annex L. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Yes, now let's move on to Annex L. This is the section where we report all of the transactions performed during the year. As mentioned, to open it, just click on Novo Anexo and then select Anexo L. Once you open Annex L, you see several fields, specifically from Table 3 to Table 9. The first one is Table 3. This is where you'll report the net amounts of local sales of goods and services. If the company has made sales from the Azores or Madeira, those must also be reported in this section. You will notice that the table is divided into 3 columns, one for stocks, one for goods and services, and one for fixed assets. Each column is further broken down by VAT rate, reduced rate, intermediary rate, and standard rate. And also exempted sales with rights or not for deduction. So let me give you a quick example. If you made stock sales at the standard rate, you will go to box IL03 and report the net amount of the entire year. Yeah, I can go to the next slide. Yeah, so in this slide, I've included a description of what needs to be reported in each box. I believe this will be helpful as a reference when you are preparing the annual reports. So next, you will need to complete the table 4. Here, you will again see 3 columns, one for stocks, one for other goods and services, and one for fixed assets. This table is used to report local purchases. And unlike the previous table, there is no breakdown by VAT rate, so you will report the total net amounts only. Next, we move on to table 5, where we report transactions with other countries. This includes intercommunity supply of goods, intercommunity acquisition of goods and services, import of goods, and exports of goods and services. In this table, we only need to distinguish between 2 categories, fixed assets and all other goods and services. So, for example, if you perform intercommunity supply of goods other than fixed assets, this should be reported in box L41. You can go to the next. Okay. So yeah, in this slide, I've included the breakdown of what should be reported in each box. This can serve as a helpful reference when you are preparing the annual report. Okay, so now let's look at table 6, where you will report the deductible VAT amounts. This table has 4 columns, with the last one showing the totals, which are updated automatically. As in previous tables, you will need to differentiate between VAT rates, specifically the reduced, intermediary, and the standard rates. For example, take line 45. Here, you have reported the VAT amount from purchases of stocks taxed at the reduced rate. So again, in this slide, I've included a description of what needs to be reported in each box. And now let's look at table 7, where you will report any advance or prepayments received. These amounts are distributed across the 3 fiscal regions, the mainland, Azores, and Madeira. So here's how the fields are used. In box L57, you should enter the net amount of advances or prepayments received during the fiscal year, where VAT has already been settled, but which haven't yet been converted into final invoicing by December 31 first. In box L58, you must enter the corresponding VAT amount settled for those prepayments. And finally, box L59, you should indicate the net amount of prepayments received in previous fiscal years, where the final invoicing occurred in the current fiscal year. The table 8 is for reporting operations in Portugal, where the supplier does not have headquarters or fiscal representative in the country. To be more precise, if you are a Portuguese company that has acquired goods or services taxable in Portugal from a supplier who does not have a permanent establishment or fiscal representation here, you must report in this table the total VAT related to those transactions. So this applies when you, as the buyer, have taken on the supplier's VAT obligations under the reverse charge mechanism. The table 9 is for very specific transactions defined in Articles 3 and 4 of the VAT Code, so it's not commonly used. However, if you have carried out this type of transactions, such as permanent transfer of establishments, the amounts you enter in each field should reflect the total operations across all 3 fiscal regions, the mainland, Azores, and Madeira. So once you've completed the form, simply click on the Validar option to check for any errors. If there are no errors, you'll see the message Declaração não apresenta erros, which means the declaration has no errors. If there are any errors, the system will display them for you to review and correct. You need to fix all these errors until the message Declaração não apresenta erros appears, basically indicating that you can proceed. And you can save your prepared declaration by clicking the floppy disk icon to export the XML file. You simply enter the document name and then click Gravar to save it. To save the declaration as a PDF, you just need to simply click the printer icon labeled Imprimir. To submit the declaration, click the Submeter button. And dialog box will appear to confirm your intention to submit the declaration. Click on the Sim button to confirm. If you choose the No button, the declaration will not be submitted. And with respect to the penalties range from 300 to 3,550. And this applies both to late filing of the periodic and annual VAT returns. If the non-compliance was intentional, the penalties will be higher.